Right, welcome to Quad Pod. This is episode 25. We've almost been going 6 months, and for me, this is one of the holy grail interviews to talk to a football manager, but it's not perhaps the football manager for obvious reasons we could have spoken to, because this football manager has passed. But we have got the next best thing. So I'm going to introduce him, and then we're going to work out who his father is. So I'm not going to say his name just yet, but he's been at Exeter in the youth. He then, and here's one of the clues, he then went to Southampton youth, and that would have been after his father's managerial career. Moved on to Southampton because he got a better job, shall we say. He's then got into coaching and management of forms. I think he's been a little bit unlucky from what I've seen, right? So Forest Green Rovers, he started at an under-18s coach. I think if I've got this wrong, I'm sure correct me. He then became interim manager, and he was replaced inverted commas by Rob Edwards. Now, I'm going to say that was a bit harsh because looking at his win rate, he had I think it was played 8, won 4, drew 2, lost 2. So he was doing pretty well at Forest Green, to be fair. He then moved, and here's another clue to throw you off the scent, to Stevenage Borough, I believe, as assistant manager to a very well-known Exeter person, Mr. Paul Tisdale. He then left there more recently. He's now manager of AFC Totton. And if you haven't worked it out already, we haven't got Alan Ball. We've got Jimmy Ball with us. How are you doing, Jimmy? Are you well?
Very well. Very well, thank you. And
can I just say thanks for coming on the show. And in terms of, let's talk about the here and now, your managerial career, right? Mm-hmm. So I make it that you joined March 2022. Is that correct? Roughly?
At Totton, yeah, that's correct.
And I'm going to embarrass you now because I thought you were a double winning manager, but you're actually a treble winning manager, aren't you, in your first season there?
Yeah, my first full season. That is correct. Yeah, it's been my first time managing in a non-league after being a coach for 25, 26 years at different levels. And it's been interesting. It's actually been much more of a challenge than I thought. And a lot more difficult than I thought. So to have been as successful as I have in it, I'm really, really pleased with how it's all gone.
And by the way, you should be pleased because to get 88 points in your first season, I think you won 27, you drew 7, you lost 4. I think you won a Super Cup. You put various clubs to the sword by 7 goals and 8-1 in one instance.
Yeah.
And sorry, just to put it into context for everybody, playing in a similar level to Bideford, Willand and Exmouth. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So, but now you're stepping up into the Southern Premier League, and you're likely to face, I got this right, Tiverton Town, Didcot, Merthyr, Plymouth Parkway, Hull Town.
Correct. Yeah? Yes.
Yeah, and do you envisage it's a big step up? Just curious.
I think it's different from what I've watched. Luckily enough, we were comfortable winners of the league, so I could spend a bit of time towards the end of the season watching quite a few of the teams above. So I took that opportunity, and it's going to be a step up for sure, but different. I think more physical, more aggressive, but we're gonna approach it in the same manner. We're going to try to play. Obviously, you've got to be able to scrap and run, no matter what level you play at. But we're gonna try to play. From what I've seen, I think it's a quite aggressive, quite physical league. So, but I'm sure we will be ready and capable.
And I'm sure you will be. And looking at it, the club is in. I'm curious about its ownership, only because we talk about this on the podcast a little bit. I think it's owned by 3 or 4 people. Is that correct?
Well, there's a board. There's a very small board, which is great for me as a manager, because there's not too much of managing up that I've got to do. And in all honesty, they've been fantastic since I walked in there, since we first spoke. If I'm being honest, once when me and Paul obviously lost our jobs at Stevenage, which, like you said, I thought was pretty harsh at the time. I still do. We were safe, we were comfortable, lowest budget in the league, and doing quite a good job, if I'm being honest. So, they approached me when I came out of Stevenage. I wasn't sure, but they've done everything they said they would do in their backing of me and how I wanted to do it, what I wanted to put in place to be the most professional non-league club that we could possibly be. They've backed me all the way, and I'm pleased that we were able to deliver for them. On the pitch, they're backing off the pitch. So, it's got big ambition. They have big ambition as a board. Yeah. And hopefully I can fulfill that for them, and it won't be through lack of trying.
And just to put into the context in terms of your management role, like you say, it's not just on the pitch. You're doing club operations as well, I believe. And I think you got quite a lot of backing in terms of a very sensible contract, shall we say. And looking at the website, and I've had a little look round because I'm curious like this. They're doing quite a lot commercially, aren't they? And things are looking really good at AFC Totton at the moment.
Yeah, like I said, when I met with them, I said, what kind of manager do you want? Do you want to, it's non-league football. So I said, do you want Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday, and just coach and try and win and go home, or do you want a manager to manage your whole club? Because they're all very, very successful businessmen, but as we see quite a lot, these very, very successful businessmen can come into the ruthless, brutal world of football and make crazy decisions, do things that they would never do in their everyday business life.
Yeah.
So I said, do you want a manager? Do you want someone to manage your football club? And they said yes. So I said, well, then this might be the project for me. And then we spoke some more, and it was. I wanted to commit something substantial. They wanted somebody who wanted the same. So we agreed on a 5-year plan, a 5-year contract, a 5-year journey that we were going to go on and see where we can get to. The hope for me is that we are at the top of the National League by the end of those 5 years, and where that leaves me or is that we'll worry about that then. So it was the project that I was involved. I was more excited about than turning up, coaching, trying to win, going home. It was about being involved in all of it, trying to set up an academy for a non-league club. Sounds crazy, but we've made great strides in that, and it's all about people. So you bring the right people in, get the right people on the boat, and you should sail. So, recruitment, strength and conditioning. The guy I brought in strength and conditioning was actually at Exeter for a while. A guy called Graham McAnuff. I think he's probably one of the best people I've ever worked with in the game. And so, he got hold of Matt Oakley when he came in, and got a 40-year-old another 2 or 3 years playing as a pro. So he's very, very good at what he does. And again, that's part of it. You get the right people all rowing in the same direction as you, and you've got a chance. So the club's exciting, fresh, new, and hopefully we can stay on the same track as we're on, because we're trying to do some really, really good things.
It does look exciting, and just to help contextualize people, for those that may not know where AFC Totton is, it's actually next to Southampton in Hampshire. And what's the crowd base like at the moment? And the ground looks good as well in terms of space. At the moment.
Well, we were on a regular basis. We were over 1,000 people in the ground last season. In some of our bigger games, we were up around 1,500.
Really?
We hope that goes up again now that we're in a higher league with a lot more local derbies, shall we say. So we're hoping that continues and goes up again. We've got a large youth section, which they turn up and support the club and obviously bring their mums and dads with them. So that helps a lot, having a large youth section underneath the football club. And it's the sort of biggest suburb of Southampton, Totton. So there's a good base there, and they've had a history in their past of winning the Vars and things like that. So we've got a chance. You know, we look at clubs like Forest Green, like Barrow, like Sutton United, like Salford City, and think,
why not?
You know, why not?
Yeah.
And we've got, you know, I'm lucky. I've got great board of directors that really back me, and we're not stupid about it. We're not. We're calculated. We plan. We know what we're doing. We know how we want to play. They've backed me with my style, and that's something that's really, really important. And so far we've done it. We've done what we said we wanted to do in the first year. But just like in a football season, it's the same as a football club. You're only as good as your next game. Yeah. Forget your last game; it's gone. You're as good as your next game. So, yeah, we had a great season. Yeah, we won the league and two cups, if you like. The Champions Cup is the winners of the two Southern leagues play each other. So there's a Southern Central League and a Southern League South. And so we played each other. We won that as well. So, yeah, we won everything we realistically could, because the trophy and the Vars for us, the trophy and the FA Cup for us was, a pipe dream. So we won everything we could, but you're only as good as your next season, and that's all gone now. And you start afresh.
And put it into context about the potential that you've obviously got there. I live in Brackley, Northamptonshire, and Brackley Town. And for all my Brackley Town friends, I do go to games occasionally. Right? They are would, in the nicest way, dream to get that as a regular attendance, 1,500. And that's not being disrespectful to them, because they get 3,000 for their big games. But, there's certainly, based from what you're saying, loads of potential there. So, I can see that really working. So definitely going to watch it. Now, you didn't come into this with your eyes shut, did you? So, and you've also got some parallels with your father's career in terms of coaching, because I'm going to get some of this wrong, I'm sure. Pompey, Shelbourne, Puget Sound Gunners near Seattle, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, that was an adventure out there in America that I had. It was another really steep learning curve, out in America, because this would be 15 odd years ago now, and they were really far behind. So to go there and have to really strip back the game, it actually taught me a lot. It taught me a lot. It helped me a lot in my coaching and how to coach, really. You take it for granted. You coach players in England, and they have all the innate sort of subconscious understanding of how to do it. You don't have to tell them that when they're passing the ball, their plant foot has to be alongside it. Whereas when I went to America, they had no substance to their football. They had their shin pads outside their socks. We used to laugh about it, and so I had to really strip the game back to its absolute basics. And you know what? It probably taught me more about how to coach than anything I've ever done. Any of the badges and licenses I've ever done, and management diplomas and stuff, that taught me more about how to coach fundamentally than anything I've ever done. So it was a wonderful experience. We were out there for nearly 7 years, me and my young family. So it was fantastic.
And a nice part of the world. I've got my best man lives in Seattle, so I've been over there. A nice part of the world. And like you say, in America, a bit of a fact you might find unusual, but Exeter City Supporters Trust have a share in FC Chattanooga due to an Exeter fan that's actually over there and working within the setup there in the background, doing similar stuff to you, but not on the coaching side. He's more commercial. And I can see, I mean, they're getting 10, 12,000 fans at games. It's really kicked off where they are. And obviously the World Cup's on its way to them in 3-4 years. It's going to be a real explosion in America. So I should have worn my Seattle Sounders top. But so I'm going to put a little bit of trivia in here. So there's a little bit of pressure on you being a manager, wasn't there? Because you had your dad, Alan Ball Jr., right? Clues in the name. And Alan Ball Sr., right? So you are the third manager of in a football league club. Is that right? Or fair to say?
Correct. Yeah, correct. And I would say that's never been done before, because I haven't researched it, but nobody's ever been able to tell me that that's been done before. It may have been done in another country, maybe, I don't know, South America somewhere, but it has never. No one's been able to say that that's ever been done before. So that's something I'm immensely proud of. Where you come from, your stock, your family, my dad's dad was a massive, massive influence on my dad's life. Sadly, died far too young, and my father was a huge influence on me, and again, sadly, died too young. So, but to be the third generation to managing the Football League is extremely something I'm extremely proud of.
And it's definitely in the blood, because for those that don't know, your grandfather, I believe, was a manager at Preston North End. Is that right?
Yeah, Preston North End, Halifax. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you say, tragically passed in a car accident in Cyprus, which is awful. Then obviously your father, which we know about, who I picked up on something doing my research, because you can tell I've done a bit of research. He passed in the back garden of a heart attack from trying to put out a fire in the garden, didn't he?
Correct. Yes, he did. Yeah.
So, which is eminently sad, can I say? And he picked that up today when I was finishing off what I was doing. Now, let's talk about what you've picked up, because there must have been a lot of pressure being the son of a World Cup winner, would you say, or not when you were younger?
Really, really interesting, because I did a podcast with a guy called Phil Noon, who was a goalkeeper at Exeter with me in the youth team. He runs a mental health charity up in Liverpool, and I did a podcast with him, and it was a kind of watershed moment for me, really, because he said things to me that I'd never really thought about. So for me, if you asked me that question, I'd say no. Felt no pressure, never bothered me, never had any impact on me. I just played football and it was all fine.
Brilliant.
But in this podcast, having a conversation with him, who was watching me in that situation, he said, absolute rubbish. You were like this, and you were like this, and this happened, and I kind of went, well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. He said, and whenever no one was around, you were, this player. And whenever the gaffer came over or people were around, and, you were this player, and it completely affected you. And so you kind of, I'd never really thought about it, if I'm being honest. And he made me really think deeply about it during this talk we had. And, it suddenly dawned on me that he was right, and that I was acutely aware of the nepotism that everybody believed existed, apart from those who played with me and were around it, because I've spoken to them and they were like, no, you trust me, you never got any favors, you never got any special treatment whatsoever. Now I know that, but it was the outside, what people thought from the outside. And yet, when I really thought about it deeply, I played football really conscious of it and quite petrified at times of not living up. And when you think about living up to someone like him, you look back and you think, well, that's ridiculous, because there hasn't been a player like him since, So for me to think that I could live up to him or play anywhere near his levels was ridiculous. But I think subconsciously that was always something that was in my mind. So, I genuinely don't think I felt it at the time, but looking back, it dawned on me that I did. But I wouldn't use that as an excuse. Yeah. For me, I knew I could see football. Yes, I think this is the best way I can describe it. I could see football, and I knew I could. I could read the game. I could lead. I was extremely fit. My feet just weren't quite good enough, to get the ball there. If you understand that, they just weren't quite good enough. And I've come to terms with that. It was hard at the time. He was the one who told me that. He was the one who said, look, you can do this, you can do this, you do this, but ultimately you're just not quite good enough. And, I respected him enough to accept it.
Wow. And can I just say, for a bit of context from some of the things I might say, I'm a FA youth coach, retired, and my son was obviously in the football team. And and that bit about you say you get no favours, I can see that, because probably the son of the coach probably gets the roughest one out there, even if you there. And there's the times when you perhaps need to be a father, and you perhaps don't feel you can be sometimes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And certainly picking up and if anybody hasn't listened to it on YouTube, and about the after dinner speech that your dad Alan did, and he talks about his rise. It's about 35 minutes long. I've listened to it in the last 10 years 5 or 6 times, because it always makes me chuckle to a point. But your grandfather drove your dad on more than ever, wasn't he? And I can sort of relate to that, because he was even to the point where he was like, "Are you sure you're in the team? Because I'm not sure whether I'm going to drive down and watch you play." At Wembley. You're like, what if he's just in the squad? You're going to go, surely. But as a parent, you would have done, obviously. But
times were different.
He was driving. Yeah, times were different, weren't they? Because there wasn't a lot of money in the game then, was there?
No.
So,
no.
And so. And in terms of AFC Totton, is there a lot of money at that level when we, talk about money? Do you find, is it semi-pro or?
Yeah. I guess that's how you describe it. I think, listen, it's like anything. Football, whether we like it or not, is governed by it. There's no. It's not rocket science. I'll just go back to last season, not this season that's just ended. I'll go back to the one before that.
Yeah.
Stockport won the National League with the highest budget. Forest Green won League 2 with the highest budget. I think I'll probably get this wrong. Maybe Sunderland won League 1 with the highest budget. Fulham won the Championship with the highest budget. And Man City won the Premier League with the highest budget. Yeah. So if you get your recruitment right and you've got a top 6 budget, you've got a chance of winning the league.
Yeah. And if you look at League 1 with Exeter City this year, we finished, very well in mid-table for our first time up in the league. But when you look at the budgets and you look at Ipswich Town, Sheffield Wednesday, and Plymouth Argyle, and you're looking at the I've looked at the accounts of Ipswich Town, and they make more out of their commercial sales than the whole budget of Exeter City.
Yeah.
So, and you're like, wow, because you can't compete, can you?
No, well, you've still got to get your recruitment right. You can have the biggest budget in the world. You can get your recruitment wrong, or you can have your environments wrong, or your styles wrong, or whatever. So you can still get it wrong with the biggest budget. But if you get it right, you recruit the right players for your style, you've got a hell of a chance. I know that it's not rocket science. It's not anything amazing. It's like Wrexham this year, and it is what it is. But you've still, just having the biggest budget ain't enough. You've still got to go and do it and coach and motivate and recruit and do all those things. Create the right environment because to win a league's hard at any level, because you've got to keep doing it. So you got to keep winning, and you can't take your foot off the pedal. So being down at the bottom of the league in some ways is easier because it's in front of you. You got to fight and scrap, but to be at the top and to keep getting up every Saturday, get them up, build them up, get them out there with more desire than the other team that's a skill of management. So you can have the biggest budget and get it wrong. Absolutely. Excuse
me. You certainly can, and you've already started investing, haven't you? Because if I got it right, you signed Sam Magri, who's got league experience with Crystal Palace and Southampton. Is that right?
Portsmouth, I think it is. But
sorry.
Yeah, funny story. I signed Sam Magri as a 12-year-old when I was coaching at Portsmouth, so it was quite a nice little full circle. Yeah. So I gave him his schoolboy forms at Portsmouth.
Lovely. And in terms of your link-ups, have you got any link-ups for Exeter City yet?
No, I don't, to be honest with you. No.
What I'll do at the end is I'll talk to you about a couple of people that you can talk to, because I've interviewed a few people.
Yeah, I would have been able to call Matt Taylor, because obviously when I was managing Forest Green, we played Exeter towards the end of that season in our run to getting into the playoffs. And I would have been able to, but I don't know, Gary.
Well, let's create the links. There's Kevin Nicholson, there's Kevin Miller, people like that down there.
Oh no, I know Kev. Yeah, I know Kev Miller, obviously.
Do you?
Yeah, know him really well.
All right. Well, he's the goalkeeping coach now.
Yeah, so, great guy.
But that's what's he is hilarious. Actually, very funny. He sends me the odd funny text. Now, in terms of the sort of level, are you into getting loan players in from other teams, or are you looking for sort of like a settled team? How do you approach it?
We're fairly settled as a team. I did a big recruiting drive last season, hoping that we'd do what we did, and so I wouldn't have to bring in another 5, 6, or 7. I'd only have to bring in 2 or 3.
Right.
So yeah, but and on the loans front, I think it's quite interesting. I did a little bit of loans managing when I was working at Stoke City. And I think these kids come out of league clubs 18, 19, 20, 21 and think that non-league football is pub football, and that they'll just be able to strut around a little bit, and they'll be the best player on the park by a mile, and they'll get away with murder. And we've had a couple of players out of pro clubs this season who unfortunately lasted about 3 weeks, and I had to be straight and honest with them and say, you're going to have to go back, because you're miles away from what's required. And it's nothing less than I experienced when I sent young players out at Stoke. It's not a pub league in any way, shape, or form. There's some very, very good players. My centre forward from last season has got 350 league games, and he's playing at this level. So you've got, I've got 2 midfield. I've got a midfield player who played 10 games for Bournemouth in League One. So you've got good standard. You've got good players. And so when I do speak to clubs and they say, "Oh, I've got this 17-year-old, you get in your first team easy," I have to say, with all due respect, he won't, because I've seen it. It's a man's league. It's proper. We play football. We particularly play very good football, but it's not. If I'm taking a young kid, he's got to have the absolute spot on temperament. He's got to be right physically, otherwise it'd be dangerous. And he's got to, like I said, have the right, attributes mentally to come in and have the right attitude towards it to put his best foot forward. We took a kid from Wigan last season on loan, and he's been the only one. I would say a kid. He was 20, I think 20 years old, Joe, and he's been the only one loan player that have come in and done it properly and been like a man as he's come in as a young 20-year-old kid, played like a man, behaved like a man, and did it really, really well, and went back there and then got in their first team. So it was a very successful thing that we did. But for young kids, I think the level is too much for academy kids. Yeah, that's what I believe, unless they're special. And don't get me wrong, I sent Nathan Collins out when I was at Stoke, and I think he's a special talent, and he coped fine. But like I said, it's not just ability to come and be able to do this. It's personality, character, temperament, and who they are as people. Yeah, so there's a lot to it. You can't pluck a kid out of Exeter's youth team and drop him in step 3 of non-league football, and he will find it extremely, extremely hard.
Well, it's interesting to say that, because if you and I agree and I get it, right? But I think that Exeter have got at the moment we've signed quite a lot of young talent, as in they've come out of the youth academy and they're 18 to 20.
Yeah.
Some of them need to your point, learn the man's game and learn it quickly. So,
yeah, well, listen, on the flip side of that, if they do come and they cope, they'll go back men. They'll go back better. They'll go back further along. You know, I've got my opinions about. I worked in a Cat 1 academy for 6 years, and I don't think it fundamentally works, because you're not preparing them for where they're going to go and play.
Yeah.
One kid out of a Cat 1 academy will go and play in the Premier League, and then there's 17 others in his age group that will play in League 2 if they're lucky.
Yes.
But the Cat 1 games and the Premier League 2 or whatever it's called, it does not prepare them at all for what they have to cope with in League 1, League 2. You know, when I was at Forest Green, we got an agent pestered me to come and look at this player who was in a Cat 1 academy. We went to a 23s game, sat there, and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Oh, he's amazing. He's what a footballer." I said, "However, this game looks nothing like we're playing Barrow on Saturday. The game I'm watching right now won't look anything like Forest Green Barrow. So I can't judge him. It's almost like watching another sport." Yeah.
No, I get that. So let's go back to your times at Exeter. Yeah. You came. Obviously, the family moved down. You're in the youth setup. Can you mention one name? I don't know, but I was it Phil Noon? You said.
Yeah, Phil Noon, goalkeeper, mad goalkeeper, Scouts.
Yeah,
great lad, fantastic goalkeeper, brave as a lion, daft as a brush.
Brilliant, you love him. Who else was there at the time that have got?
My youth team was I can name them all. My youth team was Gary Rice, Phil Lafferty,
Ricey,
Hutch. Myself and Anthony Thelby in the middle of the park. Martin Phillips on the left, Kevin Darch on the right, Richard Pears up front, Matt Harris up front. Who else would have been around then? Michael Brown, Toby Redwood.
Wow. He's at Southampton now, isn't he?
I'm going to forget someone and it's going to be bad. Fraggles. Yeah.
Right.
John Richardson.
John Richardson, my God.
Yeah, we were a good group, to be fair, and we all look upon it. We had a bit of a reunion last year, and we all look upon it and as the best years of our lives. To be honest with you, Raddy was our coach. He was fantastic. We were all there at the Cat and Fiddle, not like it is now.
I was going to say, have you seen it now?
I've been there. Yeah,
have you been?
Not like it is now, where we're all together. You know, we were training in and around the first team most days. Yeah. You know, you had characters in around the first team. Unbelievable, you know, Jeppo.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Danny Bailey. Scott Hiley, Kev Miller, John Hodge, John Brown, Pete Whiston, Stuart Storer.
My God.
Steve Moran, flipping one of the best finishes I've ever seen in my life.
He did play for England, though, didn't he? Steve Moran.
Russell Coughlin.
Russell.
And then there was Alan Tong, Dave Cooper.
You were with Tongy, were you?
Andy Harris. Yeah, Andy Harris. Wonderful. Just absolutely wonderful times. Great people. It was so raw, a guy called Stuart Dorr who was on the board. He was bombing around. He was bombing around the training ground. He was hilarious. Just great people, truly great people. Mick Chapman was a physio. Honestly, I can't tell you how fondly I look back on it. And I'll tell you, my dad did exactly the same. He said they were the happiest times of his whole time in football management. It was just the happiest time. Just a wonderful club, wonderful people, beautiful place. Look, I only look back on it with just real enjoyment and pleasure. It brings a smile to my face, and I know it did the same with him.
Wow. Yeah. And by the way, and I know, and this is a bit where we get to celebrate some of your dad, right? Never lost a Plymouth derby. Did you know that? You knew that.
Yeah.
He signed Martin Phillips when he moved to Manchester City, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
For 600,000, I think, which was desperately needed money at the time.
Yeah. And it was justified, though. Like I was sort of just getting into coaching at the time, and Buster, he played about 6 or 7 games. There was a game at Old Trafford that he played against Man United, and Gary Neville still have nightmares about it. He absolutely twisted him up. He murdered him. It was justified. He didn't do it as a favour to Exeter. Buster deserved it. He was that good.
Yeah, no, he was good. He was good. And, who can forget the goal he scored against Fulham, which was top bins from distance, which at the time we thought it was going to be our last game of the club, I think, from memory.
I don't remember that as a youth team. I don't think his legs were strong enough to shoot from distance, Buster. He was like a rake.
Yeah, you're right. So other memories. I'm going to tell you something about your dad. Right? He won a game at Rotherham away, and it was something like, I'm going to exaggerate and do Yatesism. There were about 4 goals scored in about 4 minutes at the end of the game, and Exeter ended up winning, and he threw his cap into the away end. And there's a guy that might be listening to this podcast in the future called Daniel Parker. He was at Leeds University at the time, and it was a time where technology wasn't very great, and a letter was made up with an Exeter City header from the club asking for the hat back because it was his lucky cap. And Danny, being a good Exeter fan, stuck it in a brown envelope and sent it back down to Exeter.
Love it.
Yeah, so Danny, that one's for you if you're getting that. But honestly, so many memories. What was your best memories of? And I'm going to say Southampton and Exeter in terms of what was going on at the time. Because am I right in thinking that when Alan, your dad, moved to Southampton, he teamed up with Mick Shannon and Kevin Keegan? Is that right?
As a player?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was there before Kev.
Cool.
Mick was there. Dad came in, then Kev came in. Yeah, then other players like Frank Worthington and Ted McDougall and all sorts of players there. It's ridiculous.
And sorry, that was as a player. And the bit that I was going to really pick out, which I didn't realise, he improved Matt Letizier's career, didn't he? And also signed Bruce Grobbelaar.
Signed Bruce, yeah.
Right.
Tiz, probably improved his career. I just think sometimes. Well, no, the thing with my dad and Tiz, I think my dad recognised what he was, which was greatness.
Yeah.
And I think probably it takes greatness to recognise greatness. He wasn't really played under Chris Nicholl. He wasn't really played under Ian Bramford. They wanted him to do things that, why would you want him to do those things? His skill was winning games of football with absolute genius, so why would you want him back in your own half? And I think my dad just recognised that and said, go play, you are that good. And I was fortunate enough to be around that his first day at Southampton, and I remember it vividly. Tiz has spoke about it quite a lot. He just said to him, if you want to stay up, because I think they were 6 points adrift.
Yeah, they were.
I don't think anyone had stayed up being bottom at Christmas. I think there were 6 points adrift.
They did a big
first game was Newcastle away, who were top and flying under Kev. He just came in and said, you want to stay up and you want to get your win bonus, and all you got to do is pass it to him. Every single one of you, whenever you got it, try and pass it to him. And that was sort of it, really.
Really?
Then they went to Newcastle, 1-2-1. He scored 2. And on the Tuesday night, they played Liverpool at Southampton and won 4-1 or 5-2 or something crazy like that. And Tiz scored hat-trick. And then he went somewhere else and he scored again. And that was it. He was just off and rolling, but he just needed someone to go. Tiz just needed someone to say, you are that good.
Yeah.
And he was. And trust me, he was. He was ridiculously talented.
And do you know what? The Plymouth derbies, we were, as a club, we were absolutely not in a great space, tight budgets, but he understood what a derby was about. And from what I've heard from some of the interviews that have been done, right, there was only going to be one winner of those Plymouth derbies, and that was good, and hence why I'm wearing this shirt in front of you, but I'm not wearing the bally hat. And do you know what? We've done this on a Friday, isn't it? And I'm conscious that we've been 50 minutes, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, by the way. I am going to become an AFC Totton fan from a distance.
Thank you.
That goes without saying, and I shall be following your results. I would gander that they're going to keep climbing from what I'm seeing. So, and I think with your background and experience and contacts, I believe Toby's at Southampton, isn't he? You mentioned.
Yeah. He's working in the academy at Southampton, I believe. Yeah.
So Toby Redwood.
Still got some scars on my legs from Toby.
So we need to build those links, and I want to thank Danny Bailey for having the conversation with you to connect.
Another person I got some scars on my legs from. Yeah,
I can imagine. So look, appreciate you coming on a Friday. Thank you so much. Look after the family as well, because
thank you.
I think you understand what I mean by that, because
had
a bit of family tragedy in there. So
it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. Love the club. Very, very fond memories of the football club. I think I wish them all the very best. I think it's what the fans have done and how they've managed that football club and rescued it and supported it and backed it is absolutely incredible. Absolutely fantastic. The game before, me and Paul got the sack at Stevenage. We were coming. Then our next game was Exeter at St James's, and I know we were both really looking forward to it, but it never materialised. As football people make decisions. So I wish them all the very best. I think they've had a good season, what you'd call a consolidation season, especially with a bit of upheaval, the manager moving on. Yeah. You never know how that goes. That can go they could, that can go one or two ways. Players can be free and kick on when they go, or it can change so much that they go the other way. So it looks like it's just been steady and consolidate and learn, and hopefully next season brings a better tally and they keep going.
And I'm gonna finish by saying, I know a guy won 50 grand on an England cricketer who made his debut today, and I think I might be going to the bookies and putting on a little bet of a certain person being a future Exeter City manager potentially. And I'm not going to say a name. I'm going to leave it for everybody to work out. So because you never know in this world. So, but we hope to play AFC Totton in the cup. That'll be really cool now. The first round of the FA Cup, it will be on the list. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend, yeah?
Thanks, Alan. You take care of yourself.
Take care. See you later.
See you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming on.